Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the session Smart Sensor Solutions of our first virtual COMPAMED high-tech forum organized by IVAM. My name is Roland Förster. Among other things, I'm responsible for the coordination of a SIM network in the field of medical technology at IVAM. Today, I'll be sharing this session, which will run from 10:50 to 12:30. There will be 5 talks and every speaker will have 15 minutes for the presentation, followed by 5 minutes for Q&A. Before we get started, I would like to mention that some people are watching the session via live stream on YouTube. And if you want to join the discussion, you would have to register for the Zoom webinar on our IVAM website. It's good to see so many people in our webinar. I'm sure today we bring a lot of benefits to all in the room to stimulate new ideas. If you are interested in high quality, high precision and future-oriented sensor systems, stay tuned. Let's start with our first talk. We are pleased to welcome Mrs. Zuzana Pronayova, a guest from Switzerland. Mrs. Pronayova works as an area sales manager at Innovative Sensor Technologies. And her specialty is thin film sensor technology with endless viabilities to match new sensing requirements with future safe and reliable solutions for parameters such as temperature, flow, or humidity. And today she will be sharing her expert opinion on thermal and flow control in medicine device, how to customize high performance sensors to fit your applications. With that, I ask you to give your full attention to Mrs. Pronayova.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be the first in today's session, and allow me to share the screen just a moment. So I hope that everyone can see the presentation now. And today I'll be talking about a multitude of applications for temperature and flow control in medical devices from the perspective of sensor technology. Please allow me to first shortly introduce our company. Innovative Sensor Technology, or as we are better known, IST, is a Swiss manufacturer of thin film and thick film sensor elements. And it's our specialty to create customized sensor solutions which are tailored to the applications and assembly requirements of our customers. This approach results in a wide range of unique sensors and respective manufacturing technologies, and therefore to facilitate a smooth scale up from prototypes to serial production. It is for us essential to implement quality standards as soon as in the sensor design phase. In this picture, you can see our headquarters from where I'm talking to you today. In my experience, medtech sensing tasks fall into one of 3 categories: either patient treatment and comfort, patient monitoring, or analytical equipment. I have listed here a few examples for each, and I would like to talk about some common trends that we see in the market. One of them being towards higher measurement precision and more complex signal evaluation. Whether it's emergency or home care, reliable sensors are essential for setting conditions which are most favorable to the treatment of individual patients. In patient monitoring, especially, we see exciting new applications thanks to emerging materials and miniaturization of electronics, many of them being wireless. In analytical equipment, at the first glance, temperature and flow sensors often play only an auxiliary role. However, optimizing these control systems is crucial to reducing analysis time and reaching a high reliability of the results. Even if we cannot meet in person in Düsseldorf today, allow me to give you a few reasons why it's important to pay attention to thermal control systems and why it's a good idea to discuss them. I've already mentioned new coating and assembly materials, which allow us to get closer to the optimal measuring point. Every redesign of the sensor probes is a great opportunity to improve their performance in regards to the 4S, meaning sensitivity, selectivity, stability, and speediness. Our customers most often mention the last two when they approach us looking for platinum temperature sensors as a fast and fail-safe solution. In medical devices, the temperature sensors are more often than not encapsulated in some sort of mechanical housing. Therefore, we cooperate then with construction teams on how to best thermically couple our RTD elements to the housing. Depending on the media, we might want to maximize the active area of the sensor, as in the case of this heater at the top, or to solder the sensor to the surface, as in the second example here. In the last picture, you can see an example where we were heading for a very small active area in order to avoid interference with an optical detector, so to allow light to pass through the sensor. Analytical equipment for hospitals or for clinical labs are designed to last usually over 10 years. And the challenge nowadays is not only to ensure an fail-free operation, but also low drift to minimize maintenance costs for recalibration of the system. This approach starts again with the selection of the right sensor and its assembly, simply because that's where the signal is generated. I'm mentioning miniaturization of electronics several times. So the same trend applies also to sample size, ergo the measuring cells and the treatment contact area. As a result of this miniaturization, we see more and more application where our elements are used as precise microheaters. So not only to measure temperature, but to generate heat as a spot position. And the benefit of this system is that it's then self-regulating. Here are a few examples showing how we approach special application requirements. For surface measurement, we can either select some suitable glue, or as it's shown here, glue the sensor to a metal carrier. What all of these examples boil down to is that having a technology partner with a wide range of sensors at disposal comes handy whether you're looking for a standard or a customized solution, because this know-how can be reused and save engineering time and cost when designing a new sensor solution. Let's now move shortly to flow control. Again, I would concentrate on one sensor type using the thermal measuring principle and talk about applications which they fit best for. Thermal flow sensors serve in medical devices as mass flow controllers, meters, or simple switches. You find them in now commonly discussed ventilators, as well as breathing gas analyzers or spirometers. we see also an increase in number of applications from different fluids where the sensor can be integrated in the disposable part. The reason why thermal flow sensors are the go-to solution is very often their sensitivity at low flow rates and a simple, robust assembly without any moving parts. When analyzing breathing gases, the application of sensors with the colorimetric measuring principle is especially advantageous because they respond extremely fast and can detect the flow direction at the rate necessary to monitor the breathing cycle. New software capabilities allow to extract additional information from the flow sensor. As we are showing here in this picture, there are some breathing frequencies and different volumes used. And we can detect it with this type of sensor. As not to forget about equipment applications, very similar signal evaluation can also be used to trigger a warning indicating the malfunctioning of a valve or sealing in a pump or maybe a manifold. So how should this type of flow sensor be integrated into a flow channel? As you would expect, the better defined the geometry and therefore the resulting flow profile, the easier it is to evaluate the signal afterwards. Since we correlate mass flow to heat dissipation, we again face a construction task to get close to the medium and at the same time to insulate the sensor from the housing. We pre-assembled some flow sensors to help our customers to overcome this type of challenges of sensor integration and to use the flow sensors to their full advantage. So if you are interested in discussing also the construction site, you can approach us after the presentation. I very much hope that you found this presentation helpful, and I'm looking forward to your questions. If you are interested in downloading this file set along with some more specific information, please visit our COMPAMED booth or website. Thank you very much, and word to you, Ramon.
Thank you for this very interesting presentations. Short info, if you have questions for the speaker, type your questions in the Q&A window at the bottom of the screen, and we will get to as many as possible at the end of each talk. I also have a question right away. Can IST offer only sensor elements or complete temperature probes or flow modules?
Yes, we can. As a customization, we can design those probes as well.
Okay, great. And if I were to consider a new ventilator design, which of the mentioned flow sensors would you recommend?
The most commonly used would be FS7. That would be an anemometric one because those can be adapted to the flow rate very well.
Okay. Okay, again, thank you.
Thank you.
So, okay, due to the fact that we haven't got any questions for the moment, I would like to thank you for your very interesting presentation. And the next presentation will take place as planned at, let me see, 11:10. So in 5 minutes, see you. Mrs. Pronayova, can you stop sharing the screen?
I'm looking for this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Here I have found it.
Okay. Our next speaker is Mr. Valantassis-Kanellos, who works as a business development manager at ES Systems. He is a senior electronics engineer specialized in system design and has over 9 years of experience in product development. And today, he will be talking about addressing the need for accurate, safe, and reliable pressure measurements in medical 4.0 applications. The screen is yours, Mr. Valantassis-Kanellos.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Let me just share my screen.
Okay, perfect. Everything looks fine.
Okay. Good morning, welcome, and thanks for joining. I'm Nikolas Valantassis, and today I'm going to be addressing the need for accurate, safe, and reliable pressure measurements in medical 4.0 applications. Before we get started, let me just say that the audio will be streamed through the laptop speakers. So please make sure that the speakers are turned on and the volume is at an audible level. If you're having any trouble, any technical difficulties, please change browsers or switch off your VPN. This session is going to be recorded and will be shared with you after the event. And at the end of the presentation, we're going to have a 5 minutes Q&A session. And you can address the questions through the portal. So I'm your today's presenter. The important thing that I want to note here is that I'm an electronic engineer with a specialization in sensing system product development, especially in medical, industrial, and aerospace applications. So today's agenda is going to be divided in 4 topics. The first is the importance of sensors. Secondly, the importance of accurate measurements. Thirdly, the importance of reliability and safety in measurements. And finally, what are the ingredients for picking the right sensor? Moving on to the first topic. We all hear in our everyday life buzzwords, technology buzzwords such as Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, smart systems, smart hospitals, condition monitoring, machine learning, deep learning, and wearables. Now, while I'm not going to go into the details of these technologies, what is important to note is that all these technologies share a common factor, a common integral cog, which is sensors. So sensors are used in all these technologies and are actually the most important part. So sensors exist in every smart system and technology. The better the sensor, the better the quality of data. This means that if we take an analogy and we think the sensors we have as humans, we have eyes so we can see, we have ears so we can hear. So the better our eyesight is, the better we understand our environment, then the better decisions we can make, taking into account all this information from the environment. So having quality data from quality sensors is key to good decision making for all these above mentioned technologies. So especially in our today's life, sensors play a key role in every of these state-of-the-art technologies. Moving to the second point, the importance of accurate measurements. What I was hoping to show you here today was actually from a case study, this is a real example. from an X-ray of a patient using two different technologies. So on the left-hand side, you have film radiography, while on the right-hand side, you have digital radiography. And if you compare these two images of the same patient, you can actually see that in the digital radiography, you have a little bit more accurate measurement. You can see you have a better representation of the bones of the patient and a little bit a better image, while in film radiography, the image is a little bit more dark. But if you're a doctor and if you're an expert, what you can actually see if you zoom in to this pointer is that digital radiography outclasses film radiography in terms of detecting small nodules in the lung periphery. A small nodule is a tumor. So in this application, in this example, what we see is actually using more accurate measurements. In this case, can actually show a better image to doctors and therefore apply more appropriate treatment to the patient, where in other cases with less accurate measurements, this would not be able, this course won't be able to be taken. So accurate measurements are very important. In some cases can also be life-saving. Moving to the third point of the presentation, which is the importance of reliability and safety in measurements. Actually, here I wanted to show you two case studies using pressure sensors this time. So in excuse me, in filter monitoring at medical air compressors. So a medical air compressor is a system that takes the air from the environment, it compresses it, and then it filters it in order to give clean, dry air to hospitals or in any application where medical air quality is required. So the cleaning of this medical air is done through filters. And as you can understand, with the operation of the filters, and while this equipment is working due time, the filters get dirty and they get clogged. So manufacturers, in order to measure the cleanliness, let's say, of the filters, they have applied a differential pressure sensor across the filter at the input and at the output, and by measuring the differential pressure, they can see what is the condition of the filter, if it is clean and still operational, or if it is getting clogged, which means that the differential pressure is going to be increased due to the dust particles and then oil particles that are trapped in the filter, and therefore the filter will need replacement. Now, it is important for this application, for example, it's very important to pick the right sensor because in a differential pressure sensor, this in nominal operation for the filter, this differential pressure will be very small in measurement, while in clogged operation, this differential pressure can be very high. Usually what happens in this operation is, in this example, is that the differential pressure sensor at clogged operation is getting damaged and even it breaks. So having a sensor broken in very high pressures can also result to personnel injury due to the projectile media of the filter. Having released high pressurized gases in the environment can cause damage to ears. So in order to sustain a reliable and safe measurement, you have to pick the correct sensors for the respective application. Moving on, the second case study that I would like to show you is pump and valve control at medical gas generators. A medical gas generator, it takes either the air from the environment or other multiple gases that are installed in chambers, and then it combines them in order to produce a single or multiple medical gases. For example, you can take the air from the environment and separate it and produce oxygen. Now, these systems usually use control pumps and valves and automation in order to sync all these different processes. Now, how a valve works is a very simplified version for our example, is that it can either be open or closed. Now imagine having this system, and of course you have multiple pumps and valves installed, and on the upstream of the flow you have a valve, and then you have a pressure sensor, let's say, and then you have a closed another valve at the downstream. So due to in nominal operation and due to delays in processes and automation, there might be a case that the downstream valve is closed and the upstream valve, which is supposed to be closed as well, does not close in the exact in the specified time. So even this small delay in the closing of the valve can create an extreme overpressure in the inline system, which can damage the sensors included in the system. Even a small millisecond delay and overpressure effect. We're talking about even if you have a 10 bar inline pressure, this can go up to 150 bar in a few milliseconds. So it's really, again, very important in order to have reliable and safe measurements to pick the correct sensors that can tolerate this overpressure and avoid personnel injury due to the burst of the pressure or having not correct information from the pressure measurement due to the damage of the sensors. It is important to note that in this case, the sensor will the pressure sensor will probably not break. And this is a tricky operation because imagine you're a manufacturer in USA, let's say, and you create medical gas generators and you ship these generators in Europe or in Asia. The equipment is installed to the hospital, and after a couple of months of operation, you get a call from the customer saying that the equipment does not work and is faulty, and he wants his money back and wants to return the equipment. While if you are monitoring over the net, let's say, the performance of the equipment, which is most usually done nowadays, you won't see any issue with the indications of the system. Now, this could be an effect of overpressure in inline of the system, and the sensors getting damaged and then getting faulty results and faulty measurements, and therefore the equipment not operate as expected. This can be a really tricky and economically dangerous thing for an operation of a medical gas generator. So moving to the last point, when picking the right sensor, everything is is against price. That's why I want to use this kind of visualization here. So it is completely understandable to have technical performance against price. So the better the accuracy, the better the reliability, the better the repeatability, the total error band of the sensor is expected to have a higher price. But there are also three other things that we believe are very important to take into account, such as product life, cost of components that can be avoided, and ease of mind. Regarding the product life, when designing a system, you have to take into account that, for example, if you are designing an implantable device and you can pick either a welded dye level sensor, or you can pick a titanium sensor which is medium isolated and can be used in this application as well, in this implantable application. While the dye level sensor will be much more cheaper than the titanium one, if you consider the product life of your sensor and the ease of mind that this more expensive sensor will give you in terms of long-term operation and stability, and nothing happens to this implantable device that will create more damages. Even if you take account the safety factors, or if you take into account the risk imposed by not picking the more safe, let's say, approach, and you translate this to a price equality, then you have to take this price estimation and add it to the price of the dye level, let's say, sensor, and then compare the two prices and see which is actually a more cost-saving solution for you in the long term, not in the short term. And finally, the cost of components that can be avoided means that imagine you have a digital system and you can find a digital sensor and an analog sensor. Usually, the analog sensor will be much more cheaper. So one can imagine that I can take the analog sensor and add a few components like an ADC and a regulator and microcontroller maybe, and translate this cheaply into a digital signal. But you have to take into account that if you want to have a very accurate measurement, then the cost of the ADC might be very high. You have to find a very stable ADC that is also stable with temperature variations. You have to find an ADC that does not have any missing codes, is reliable, and all the secondary component selection and design has an extra cost that also should be taken into account and added to the price of the analog sensor, and then comparing to the digital one in order to see what sensor will be more cost effective for your solution in the long run. So pretty much this is it. If you have any questions, I will be more than happy to address them. Let me see.
Thank you for these interesting presentations. Let's start with a question from the chat. Mr. Jürgen van Pier had a question on the fragility of the sensor in a pump. If the sensor technology can be mounted on a structural part, for example, by injection molding, is this interesting for you?
I'm sorry, can you repeat, please?
Yeah. If the sensor technology can be mounted onto a structural part, for example, by injection molding, is this interesting for you?
For me, you mean as a solution? Yes, injection molding in sensors is a thing that is quietly starting to be used in order to integrate sensors into multi-solutions and provide a single solution that can be also mechanically stable. But again, you have to pick the right sensor element in order to be sure that these overpressure conditions won't damage the operating part of the sensor.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question regarding product life. Is it more or less critical for implantable applications in comparison to non-invasive systems?
Okay, product life can be equally important in both these cases, both in implantable devices as well as in non-invasive, not implantable devices. Of course, for an implantable device, you have the safety risk of the patient that you are actually installing a device on a patient, so there is also this to take under consideration. But even if you are designing a non-implantable device, you might have requirements for very long product lives that have to be taken under consideration in order to be able to select the appropriate sensor and take the right decision for your system level design.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Valantassis. There's another question in the Q&A function. Maybe you can answer via chat. That would be great. So we can go on with our next speaker.
Okay.
The next speaker is Mr. Roland Steger, who works in sales in Germany at Microdul. Microdul has been one of the specialists in miniaturization of high-quality microelectronic circuits, and the focus is on customer-specific microelectronics and has a broad portfolio of modern manufacturing technologies. Mr. Steger had technical problems in a live stream at another event. Therefore, he recorded his presentations about saving power for wearables using Microdul sensor technology, and we'll play his video right away. But Mr. Steger is still available for questions and answers after his presentations. With that, we start the recorded video.
Hello, and also a warm welcome from my side. My name is Roland Steger. I'm here today on behalf of Microdul. Phil, my colleague, has prepared a presentation about saving power for wearables using Microdul sensor technology. I will start my presentation with an introduction about Microdul. Then I will show you an example about saving power on a medical wearable. Then explaining how our human body detector works, saying a few words about our Amanda and European 2020 project, explaining our development ideas, and finally a summary. Microdul is located in Zurich, Switzerland. Founded in 1991 as an MBO of Philips Semiconductors. Today we have 81 employees, 25% of them are working in development. Our turnover is 65% in medical and 35% in industrial. We have 3 product lines available. One is the production of microsystems, thin film technology and semiconductor. Our focus today. And we have also ISO certification. In semiconductors, we have customized ASICs, but we have also standard products available. For the product development, we are using ultra-low power mixed signal technology. We are doing also the qualification, the production, the test and the logistics to ensure a high quality. We have also a wide range of packages available, reaching from standard packages to chip scale packages or even bare die deliveries. We are providing a lifetime support. Here an example from Everion from Biothermus. Biothermus is using our human body detector in their vital signs monitor. It's very simple. When it's worn, the power is switched on. When it's not worn, the power is switched off. Simple, but it extends the battery life. Here, a little bit more insights about our human body detector. We have two capacitive sensor channels. We can use them in switch or in measuring mode. The measuring range is from 0 to 1.6 picofarad. The supply range is from 1.8 to 4.5 volts. The idle current is 50 nanoamps, and the active current during measurements is around 11 microamps. This gives you an average current of two measurements of 725 nanoamps. You can use our I2C interface, or you can use it in standalone operation. The temperature range is from -40 up to 85 degrees. The device is available in a QFN16 or in a CSP package. And the good thing is you don't need any external components. How does the human body detector works? There's a driver SA and a receiver SB. There will be also a capacitance CS between SA and SB. Therefore, an electrical field is also present between SA and SB. If there is an object touching the cover, the value of CS will change. The human body detector will measure and detect this change. The sensor electrodes. There are two electrodes, SA the driver and SB the receiver. SA surrounds SB. There are also different shapes possible. Examples you see on the left side. SB is shielded from the other dynamic signals. So you can use ground or any other static signal as shield. A few words to Amanda. Autonomous, self-powered, miniaturized, intelligent sensor for environmental sensing and asset tracking in a smart IoT environment. What is it? It's an intelligent smart card. It's autonomous, ultra-low power with a lifetime of 10 years. There is a solid-state battery inside, and the card has a thickness of 3 mm, and it's a multi-sensor application. For Microdul, there is our low-power capacitive sensor inside with a standby current of 65 nanoamps used for the wake-up functionality. Our ultra-low power temperature sensor with a standby current of 30 nanoamps. Now you see a little bit more of the inside of this intelligent smart card, including all the integrated sensors. On the top left you see our capacitive sensor, what is used for the wake-up functionality. As mentioned before, the current consumption is 65 nanoamps. You can use our device in measuring or in switch mode, and we can measure up to 1 picofarad at a supply range of 1.8 up to 4.5 volts. You can run it autonomously or via our I2C. And also here the good thing is that factory tolerances are automatically compensated, so you don't have to worry about those. Here you see where our temperature sensor is located. In sleep mode, you have a standby current of 30 nanoamps. During a measurement, the current reaches 70 microamps. But if you are doing one measurement per minute, you will see an average current of 70 nanoamps. The supply voltage is in the range from 1.8 up to 3.6 volts. And the measurement accuracy of the temperature is ±3 degrees in the range of from 10 to 40 degrees. Coming from the Amanda project, we could imagine that an ASIC where a temperature sensor and a capacitor sensor are integrated could make sense. The system wake-up could be done by using a duty cycle steered by the RTC, then transferring the touch or temperature data via the antenna. You could count touches or measure the active time of the system. The cycling would extend the battery life. The next step could be to provide an energy storage and harvester, here a solar cell and a power manager. The energy harvester here is using high-efficient indoor solar cells. Those cells are working even below 100 lux. This would eliminate a battery change completely. And you would have exactly the same functionality as before, but as maintenance-free solution. As a summary, I can say that Microdul technology is saving dramatically system power. Saving system power extends the battery life. Microdul has some of the lowest power-consuming capacitive sensors and temperature sensors. And Microdul develops ultra-low power chips, such as RTCs with 32 kHz for timing, capacitive sensing, temperature sensing, and power manager. So, thanks a lot for your time. I hope I could get your interest on saving power. Feel free to contact myself or Phil by mail or via our homepage. I'm also looking forward to the Q&A session.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for your recorded presentation, Mr. Steger.
Yeah.
I want to mention again that if you want to join the discussion, you would have to register for the Zoom webinar on our IVAM website. There you can type your questions in the Q&A window at the bottom of the screen, and we will get as many as possible at the end of each talk. Yeah. I have a question to start with. You show designs for electrodes. Is support available for electrode design for different applications?
It's a good question, because the electrodes are the most critical issue in a capacitive sensing area. You have to shield the signals probably. So therefore, we know our device, and we know also different shapes of sensor electrodes. So we are providing also support on those. Yeah. So if you have any idea, you can talk to us, and we support the electrode design and also the application. We have application engineers in our location, so support is no issue on that.
Okay, thank you. Another question would be what kind of operational current will the ASIC idea with RTC, temperature sensor, and touch sensors require?
Yeah, I mean, current consumption is a critical issue if you have a battery-driven system or a harvester on board. So, but our new design of our RTCs, they are around 100 nanoamps power consumption. The temperature sensor, as mentioned in the presentation, is around 80 nanoamps. And a touch functionality we can achieve with about a current of 70 nanoamps. And then we need a little bit of margin on the leakage current. So I would say if you add up that, you come out with 300 nanoamps as a rough estimation now out of the figures I showed you. And I think this current consumption, it is not reachable with other technologies so easy.
Thanks. And we had a comment on at the chat from Dr. Thomas Dietrich. It is important to have a power saving strategy. Thank you for this good talk. Do you use power generation systems like energy harvesting?
Yes, we have already energy harvester in production or application where our devices are used for the power management. The input from the harvester could be a different, different sources. Yeah, vibration, temperature, solar cells, like here in the example. So this is probably the most critical path in developing an harvester. An application. You have to be, the development cycle is turned around. You have to start with the current consumption, and that's normally what you get on the end if you have your circuitry ready. If you build something with a harvester, you have to invert your development cycle. You have to start with
what do I need and what is the current consumption, and then I can look into the harvester and what if my harvester is able to supply the power. So that is very often a drawback, showstopper, whatever. But we see more and more applications where this is feasible. And the enabler for that is really the current consumption of the electronics. Yeah, and that brings us down to a high efficient, low current electronics. And that's where we are.
Okay. And a combination of battery and harvester is possible?
Yes, sure, it's possible. It's probably a mixture. You can have applications where you don't have a battery at all, that the energy is stored in a capacitor. There are different types of capacitors available. So maybe you find a suitable one, maybe solid state, for example, that's very stable also over lifetime. Or you can have a combination of battery, accu, or capacitor. It depends really on the application and the peak current, what you pull in your application. So, I mean, I showed it also in the presentation a little bit. Temperature conversion is up to 70 microamps. That's quite a big load for a harvester application. So you have to compensate that via a capacitor. And maybe you can use the same capacitor also for storage.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Steger. Yeah, if there are no other questions, we will take a 3 minutes break and start our next presentations at 11:50.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, the next presentation will be held by Mr. Gerhard Jobst. Mr. Jobst is founder and CEO from Jobst Technologies, and Jobst Technologies is a major technology-oriented enterprise offering its core competencies in the overlap between microsystem technology and electrochemical analytics. Gerhard Jobst was and is key researcher of many national and transnational research projects, and today he will be sharing his expert opinion on biosensor critical care. And with that, I ask to give your full attention to Mr. Jobst.
Thank you, Mr. Förster, for the kind introduction. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this session in this interesting year that we're in. On the title and critical care, I confess I was picking that title before the pandemic was raising. We are trying not to ride that cow, as many are doing. As you see on the logo, Jobst Technologies is as well part of IST AG with the presentation of Zuzana Pronayova at the beginning of that session. And yeah, a slightly different view of that. As already mentioned, 1991, IST AG was founded in Switzerland and constantly growing throughout, became part of the Endres & Hauser Group in 2005. And in 2015, with the acquisition of Jobst Technologies, was adding biosensors to this product portfolio range addressed already by Zuzana, which look pretty diverse, while amazingly they are having one piece in common, which is that all of those sensors present here, pretty much all of them, are utilizing platinum as an active sensing element. In my presentation, I'm focusing on biosensors, which are enzymatic sensors, and working on the amperometric enzymatic measuring principle. So we are measuring currents and not counting photons for measurement of glucose, lactate, glutamine, glutamate, pyruvate, with all the involved active components on a chip. So it is a self-contained system, while indeed they are requiring an external driver component, which can be pieces as smart as those ASICs presented in the talk before the Microdul. What made me wonder whether Microdul and Jobst Technologies is having an common customer on supply, driving implantable things to the over next generation. What can biosensors do? Simply imaged here, it is finding the needle in the haystack. By enabling a specific measurement within highly complex mixtures without any sample preparation. So for example, whole blood is particle, thousands of substances, and biosensors are allowed to track ppm amount out of that specifically without any apparatus around required. As such, apparatus here, so nevertheless there is a biosensor in it. Coined with that, is this new biosensing? No, not at all. Biosensor, first biosensor was described 1964 already, so we are facing a 50 years anniversary almost for that. Oh, sorry, more than that. And the image shown here is actually the first online clinical use that we are aware of, which received 1979 FDA approval for online continuous glucose monitoring, and as well on top of that even insulin administration, so being an artificial pancreas. What has changed over time since then is that the usability of that has greatly increased. So it's no longer this frightening 19-inch tall rack that is required, but can be solutions as compact as imaged in the right image, and not just manufactured by us. How this magic works, it is basically the combination of advanced membrane technology with microtechnology fabrication methodologies used to lay down this stack of up to 4 functional membranes, each of which serving a specific function. Here, let's just mention the oxidase membrane, with oxidase actually denoting this specific enzyme, which is serving the purpose of highly specifically recognizing the target analyte. In the example image here, it's glucose through its enzyme glucose oxidase, which is creating chemical signature, the hydrogen peroxide H2O2 in the image, which in turn, in proper operation of the system with an attached transducer, is generating an electrical current, which gives our actual measurement signal. And what can be measured, already mentioned, so glucose as, of course, blood sugar, this super well-known, ultra-relevant analyte due to the issue of the diabetes pandemic, which is in parallel, longer-lasting one, no foreseen wave break on that. Though in the context of intensive care unit, where I'm trying to put the intention in today's talk on, it is actually lactate, which is the most important one. And amongst that, we are capable of doing glutamate, glutamine, and new as well pyruvate and creatinine for renal disorders. On lactate, as I foresee that I got a bit of time, short story on that. Actually, when I had been starting my professional career and went into biosensing at the beginning of the 1990s, we had an informal round with a team of neurosurgeons, and from which we wanted to know what of those biosensors that we were foreseeably capable of eventually realizing would be most relevant for the work. We spent a couple of evenings together, and finally they coined an answer which actually put us on a mission that we're still on. And their answer was, see, the most important analyte for us to measure in neurointensive and during neurosurgery, this is lactate. This is number 1. Number 2 in importance, this is lactate as well. And number 3 is lactate too. And then we are not that sure whether it's potassium, oxygen, or hydrogen carbonate. And this mission still drives us, and there is still instrumentation missing. This is required for an improved treatment, for giving the anesthetists actually additional tools at hand, which can provide quantitative measures to justify their decision on treatment. What devices are possible by the means we're doing on that? What you actually can see here, all those 4 realizations have in common this dark brownish color, which originates from old sensors that we're making, being built on biocompatible polyamide foils, which then get this, the already mentioned platinum and the functional membrane stacks. And doing that in different geometries allows to create, as shown on the right top, for example, so dip in or stick in probes, as we call them, or in vivo as well, apparently useful for direct subcutaneous application. What is relevant for diabetes monitoring scheme, for example, but it is not a relevant application scenario for intensive care because simply the chemical composition in subcutaneous tissue is not appropriately reflecting the usually desired central metabolic state of patients requiring intensive care. Though nevertheless, we are having, and actually within big player in the field, an activity going on to even measure relevant metabolic parameter. And having said relevant, you can guess which ones, out of sweat in intensive care patients. I'm reluctant on the outcome of that. But is to be seen. And in the application scenario, of course, having a measurement out of sweat would be just perfect, since at just when desired, attaching and patch to an ICU patient is a process that is quickly done, and it's not invasive at all, compared to pretty much all of the other application approaches, as can be observed with on the left side, flow through devices. Attaching flow cells to the sensors allows to analyze tiniest amounts, for example, for the one shown on the top side, which has a total internal volume of just 0.15 microliters. And so with that, then typical droplet of blood of 50 microliters would be sufficient to fill 300 of such devices. Or on the other hand, in the lower left, shown an integration of the very same brown chip, but here in an half an inch tube connector that allows passage of high volume amounts in the range of liters per minute. Totally different application scenario. And on the lower right, sort of an geometrically condensed product version, which we're manufacturing for more cost-sensitive applications. We will come to that. Oh, and I see I need to speed up a bit. I've got some slides left. In the overall market application areas that we see, amongst the medical applications, we see food processing typically, and as a small segment, and then of course bioprocessing, all this production of therapeutic antibodies and so on. This is done by cells. They need surveillance. They do not have an artificial. They do not have a pancreas to regulate themselves, but we will keep that out, focus on the medical applications. And I've tried to structure the field into 4 segments. And here starting with ECMO, what is the acronym standing for extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, also known as the heart-lung machine. It's probably one of the most invasive ICU treatments. You have 2 big access lines, rather central to the bloodstream. And this is substituting the entire functionality of the heart in distributing the blood, as well as removing carbon dioxide and oxygenating the blood. This is the membrane oxygenation. And as we have so much of what is really interesting and relevant outside of the body, the blood, we can of course easily, by means of these fuel connectors here, doing continuous analysis for lactate and glucose directly in the bloodstream with a very fast response time, well below 1 minute, and practically reducing the number of blood gas analyzer blood samples that would need to be drawn by a nurse. Then the syringe transferred to the BGA and injected, analyzed, their result recorded, and well, time consuming, and importantly also consuming at the time the nerves, which is one of the very limiting factors in today's hospital, and this is not specific to the COVID outbreak. And of course, the other benefit is that trend values in lactate and glucose concentration changes can be delivered much earlier as compared to this discrete sampling scheme, what is still a clinical practice. The other segment I've termed blood monitoring for the purpose of, as mentioned already, timely values from central blood, but for patients which do not undergo an external blood treatment like in ECMO, which allows a variety, and I've just picked out 3 of them, integration scenarios to realize metabolic ICU monitors, with one being in direct catheter integration, as we have seen in the past from Edwards Life Science in the GlucoClear. This was a glucose sensor only integrated to a catheter, withdrawn from the market soon after it was launched. Alternative integration scenario is integrations in or through a peripheral access device, what simply stands for is well-known Venflon, that is typically put to almost any hospital patient staying for a couple of days, or through an flow coupling to a microdialysis probe. And again, of course, with the purpose of providing therapeutic information, alarm generation, and having automated measurement. The measurement curves of an actual online lactate measurement shown here. And this is a curve which was recorded already in 1994 in Austria, Graz Hospital of the Barmherzige Brüder, where we had students in a direct, with sensor in a direct bloodline. This is the continuous lactate recording, first ever, as I see that for such a scenario, and with the bullets in that, the reference values and the continuous line, so second per second online reading, and the same for the in parallel online recorded glucose values showing the excursions for the intravenous glucose tolerance test and subsequently the oral glucose tolerance test. So it works since more than 25 years, and we are behind the applications, and everything goes super slow, I have to say. Third application sector, tissue monitor for timely values from tissues of interest, for example, the brain. With the same purpose now, of course, being organ specific, typically coupling to microdialysis probe, continuous monitoring localized to the insertion site. For example, just this year launched by customers of ours to provide online lactate pyruvate ratio, and as we are told by those neurosurgeons, being a very relevant steering parameter for treatment, and not at least blood gas analyzer application. This is just adding lactate, glucose, and the others measurement capability to what else is found in those in vitro diagnostic devices, which are typically benchtop devices as shown in the image. And we are happy to serve a new customer with the devices as shown here. And altogether, certainly small enough for handheld devices as well. Does not necessarily have to be tabletop, long lifetime, and there are further components available for miniature fluid handling, such as that which I wanted to mention in that session, which is peristaltic micropumps, which are as well, along with the sensor core product line, is an microfluidics product line of ours, and this is micropumps which simply work for the purpose on a super easy DC voltage control, and they do what it's supposed to be, and with an amazing performance on a super small footprint, enabling numerous additional applications to be realized and served. For example, even body attached blood gas analyzers, doing analysis minute by minute without any nurse intervention. And as you have consumed my 20 minutes. Thank you. Quick questions, please.
Yeah, I'd like to express our appreciation of your most interesting talk. Time's almost up, but I think we have time for one question. And How could your sensor bring benefits to critically ill patients with COVID-19?
This is a super good question, not unexpected. There has been plenty of studies, of course, specifically in the field. As we are overseeing them currently, it is those kind of benefit the other critically ill will or would benefit as well. So metabolic disordering does not seem to be an complication specifically increased in COVID-19 patients. And so accordingly, all that what we see with a raise in lactate, for example, as an early onset indicator prior to multiple organ failure, or developing stress diabetes due to the, well, simply critical condition, people struggling for their life. There it is relatively frequent that ICU patients are developing stress diabetes. An online glucose control, something none of our customers yet has as a product. Already we are working on that, of course, but it's not out on the market yet. That would help, but it's more along with the pre-existing and general needs in ICU care, and rather not being that specific for COVID-19.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Jobst, for the presentation. And yeah, our next speaker is Dr. Ronny Leuschner. He works as a business development manager at SMT ELEKTRONIK and is responsible for sales and customer satisfaction. Acquisition and product development are the focus of his works, and today he will be talking about censoring emergency cases, prevent medical device from failure. Yeah. Now I would like to turn over to Dr. Ronny Leuschner.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Förster, for your kind introduction of my presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to welcome you warmly to my presentation. In the next few minutes, I would like to present to you an interesting possibility of how modern sensors and smart data analysis can be used to detect emergencies of sensitive medical devices in order to prevent malfunctions in the future. You will get an exact proof of the transport and storage quality for your products. Many companies are integrated into a global network of suppliers and customers. Many areas are digitized yet, or even manually monitored to ensure high quality of both the pre-products and your own products. Nevertheless, problems occur again and again at the interfaces due to unclear conditions. A complete traceability is not always guaranteed, although this may have been arranged by the service provider. Some of these risks, these emergencies, are shown here as pictograms and are certainly more or less known to everyone. Everyone knows the global supply chain. We buy our products from our suppliers scattered all over the world, and these are delivered to us by various means. Through quality certificates and incoming good inspections, we try to ensure that only faultless materials are used. Your production department manufactures your medical products. Final tests in your production confirm the faultless function, though that the delivery to your customers can take place. Nevertheless, it happens again and again that the device does not work properly when it is commissioned at the customer's side. A time-consuming troubleshooting begins, the schedule is ruptured, the customer pushes and is unsatisfied. These are the consequences. And in addition to the damage to the company's image additional costs are accrued which were not calculated in your calculation. This means that your calculation profit is reduced. Nowadays, we sometimes know where our products are because we often receive timely and local information from the customs, from loading and transshipment points, logistics centers, and so on. But we do not know what the condition of the product is. Each of us may have had the private experience. The package is optical okay, but without any damage. But if we're opening the package, we find out that the delivered product is damaged. This is already annoying in this case, as we wanted to use the product immediately. Now we have to get a replacement, send it back, wait for replacements, and so on. The entire logistic chain is our blind spot. Specific information are not enough. After all, think how difficult it is when something happens in case of invisible damage, which will happen much more often in reality. This is where further delays and additional costs arise since the damaged product is used and installed in the first place. Later on, after commissioning with testing, the troubleshooting takes place. One reason for this is the incomplete visibility of the status of your equipment and parts in your supply chain. The question, where are your transported goods, can nowadays be answered with yes in most of the cases. The other question, what loads had the goods been exposed to? There are often no information are available. There's a multitude of electronic sensors for different physical properties available. For example, acceleration, temperature, humidity, air pressure, and light incidence can be detected electronically easily. The data are continuously measured and recorded. At the same time, a comparison is made with the configured threshold and limit values. If the limits values are exceeded, it is in the case of an event, measurement data curves are recorded and stored at higher frequency. A very important distinguishing feature compared to competitors is the event-controlled measurement data acquisition with a reaction time of only 1 millisecond. This ensures a high data quality, but in particular, also the lowest possible energy consumption. A long service life for long monitoring applications or multiple use is thus possible. As an example of a continuous data acquisition, the temperature curve over time is shown here. Clearly visible are the temperature differences during transport. If the temperature exceeds or falls below the limit values, the alarms are marked with a red dot. In contrast to the continuous display of the temperature curve, here's an example of an event-triggered shock measurement. Only if the threshold values and the limit values are exceeded, the measurement is carried out at a higher frequency, and the acquisition of measurement data curves for detailed analysis will be done. If the threshold values are exceeded, the event is also marked with a red dot. If, according to Murphy's law, a damaging event can occur, it will unfortunately happen at some time. The advantage of making the blind spot in your supply chain visible is that you know if you need to take action, if, for example, physical limits are exceeded. On the basis of the analyzed data, you can decide which repair is necessary, which personnel with which spare parts is needed. This means that you react immediately with exactly the right activities. In addition, you can explain to your customers in a concrete and competent way what has happened and what consequences it has on your own product. a use case for monitoring a magnetic resonance tomograph. In the patented case, the magnet is prefabricated at various locations distributed worldwide. Already on the way to assembly, the transport is continuously monitored in order to detect non-visible transport damages. All the inner housing parts for the liquid helium for cryogenic cooling of the coil with superconducting wires are very sensitive against external shocks or loads. Further internal installations of the vacuum vessel, for instance, radiation and isolation shields, suspension elements which hold the inner vessel in position, are not visible from the outside and cannot be checked easily. In addition, these have to be as small as possible due to cost and warming. All electric connections are sensitive against breakage. They have to be reworked if a maximum in acceleration is exceeded. All this work and additional control activities were required before continuous transport monitoring was carried out. With the use of electronic sensors, this work was eliminated and costs were dramatically saved. At the same time, the productivity is increased because the condition of the MRI scanner is clear. The microshock detector shown above is characterized by its robust design and simple operation. In order to detect the real conditions of your product, the sensors must come into the direct contact with the transported goods. The electronics are specially designed to ensure this. This includes the best wake-up time of the sensors of only 1 millisecond. This is the only way the sensors can detect the highest shocks. Equally important is the energy consumption. Here, the microshock detector is characterized by a very long battery lifetime, over 1 year. This allows unplanned longer storage periods. Above all, however, it can be reused for further transport monitoring, in contrast to competitive products, which are designed as disposable products. With our Monilog Connect app, you have easy and quick access to the data. You can see on site which events and alarms have occurred. You receive reports and tables and can send them by email if required. You also have the option of saving the data in our Monilog cloud. All your advantages at a glance. In a simple sentence, once a supply chain manager told me, since his company has been using risk data loggers, he can sleep soundly again. Because if no alarms are registered, the usage of the product is possible. And in the event of alarms, he is able to understand the damage event and act accordingly. I am convinced that I have presented to you an interesting possibility how modern sensors and smart data analysis can be used to detect emergencies of sensitive medical devices in order to prevent malfunctions afterwards. Thank you very much for your attention. And now I'm looking forward to your questions.
Yeah, thank you for your interesting presentation. I also have a question right away. How is the data analysis and data evaluation carried out?
That's a very good question. Most of our customers want to know that. So the data analysis, this is the very smart solution. On the one hand side, you have to detect the data. On the other hand is that how you use the data. So we have a two-step design. The very first one is that we compare the data with the limits, with the thresholds you have to set or you have to configure in the device. With that, you can see where you have higher limit or higher values than the set limits. The second step is that you use fast Fourier transformation to characterize the shock, for instance, more precisely. with this transformation, you get the result, a special frequency of the shock. Maybe you have a very high or very low frequency. In the case of a very high frequency, which acts only of small lightweight parts of your product. So you have an idea which parts can be, or has to be repaired, has to be checked if you have a shock event. And with that, you have a very, very good possibility to see, to react precisely. Yeah, this is the kind of calculation or the kind of analysis.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. And how are the data protected against unauthorized access so that they are recognized by courts and insurers?
Mm-hmm. This is also very important because you do not see your data locker when you have the data locker attached to your product, and it is all around the world transported. So the first step is that the data are very safe in the storage. We use a checksum of all data. So this means if you have if you change the data, you will see that. Second step is that we have a password concept. So you can set in two stages passwords to set or to go in the data. And the third step is that you can only see the data with our software, which is free of charge. So you do not see any files, any data files, if you look at the firmware of the device. So with these three possibilities, it is not possible that unauthorized persons people can get your data.
Yeah, thanks for the detailed answer. Yeah, and thanks you again, Dr. Leuschner. If there are no other questions, it's time now to send you to the break. We really like to thank you all speakers that were here for their interesting presentations. And I also thank everyone who's watching us in the webinar and on YouTube, and who is interested in the topic micro-precision manufacturing and processing. Please join the session today at 1 p.m. See you soon.